Welcome to Grawlix Nights, the Grawlix Podcast live show. I'm Randy.
I'm Melanie.
And I'm Jesse.
What's going on, everybody, on a Friday night?
Nothing.
Hey, I unintentionally matched my lighting up to yours pretty well, Jesse.
Whoa.
I could almost get up and just walk over to you.
It almost looks like we're in the same room, except my part of the room is really messy.
Oh man, well I'm just hiding the messy stuff. You can see it creep along the edge. So Friday night, we're here. We're trying something a little bit different, mainly to accommodate schedules, of course. But
Right.
I was curious to see what's going on on a Friday night. My initial instinct was like, people aren't going to be around. But then Melanie pointed out, everybody we know are older now.
Right.
They're not necessarily out on the weekend hitting the bars.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the people who like the things we talk about also don't have social lives.
Right. If anything, and this is going to be a slight sore spot for Melanie, they're out seeing Doctor Strange, if anything.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I saw that on the marquee as I was driving back into town, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's already out. Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see it, but Melanie particularly seems interested in seeing it.
I actually want to see the Michelle Yeoh movie before
I know.
that.
Yeah, that looks good.
Everything I've heard is that this thing's amazing, and I want to see it.
That was the Melanie. We seen the trailer for that. That was the Everything All at Once Everywhere.
Oh,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Everything Everywhere All at Once, yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like doing ridiculous record-breaking things at the box office.
Is
Like,
it?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Good.
Like they were saying, in a rare move, it didn't dip at all from week 5 to week 6, which
Wow.
is like unheard of.
Oh, that's good word of mouth then, is what that is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the initial, I had seen a couple, I didn't dig into them because I try to avoid reviews before I see a movie. But the little bit I've heard about it is that it was great and people need to go see it because it needs to do well.
Right.
And that it wasn't necessarily doing well, but I'm glad to hear it kind of picked up.
Yeah, I wanted to see it from the first thing I saw about it. The only reason I really want to see Strange a lot is because my niece and nephew already saw it, and they are the type of people that will purposely spoil you. So,
Oh.
yeah.
Kids can be pretty brutal when it comes to that. So I
Yeah.
will have to avoid spoilers on Monday probably because my 4th graders will just be like, burr, 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 burr.
Mm-hmm.
As I make hand puppets for the audio listeners.
The fourth
They'll be like-
graders will turn in, or they'll turn it, the kids will turn into hand puppets.
Burr, 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 burr. And I'm like, I don't understand what you need. Is Timmy in a well again? That's a Lassie reference for the kids out there today.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows that reference. No. What's Lassie? It's a dog.
To get older, more and more, I hear, and I kind of this really became apparent to me a few years ago watching various people on YouTube, but anymore, it's more often that I'll hear people talking about a thing. It's like, you don't know. Yeah, that's like this. You don't know this thing. And it's like, oh, wait,
Right.
yeah, they probably weren't even alive when that thing came out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that thing has always been around, but why would they have sought that out?
Right.
Like Benji. If I made a Benji reference, would anyone know or care?
Mm-hmm.
But Benji was such the hot dog when I was a kid.
But there's some things even that I feel like they still should know and they don't. Like that one thing where Kanye was talking about Paul McCartney and they were like, oh, he's going to help his career blow up. Oh my gosh. I'm like, shut your mouth.
McCartney's
Shut
career.
your mouth.
Yeah, he really needed a boost.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I mean, Lassie wasn't exactly. Lassie and Benji weren't exactly maybe some of the Benji movies, but when we were kids, that Lassie was not new. That's so old.
No, but that was but everything was syndicated when we were young. We didn't have the option of everything being new all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the difference for sure.
I think
Yeah.
that's why we had that's why we know so many of these 60s shows. When we go on shows like Maddie D's 60s reboot. It's we know all those because they were all in syndication because the new stuff was on prime time.
I do think about that. Like, there's shows, like, I'll try to revisit something that I used to watch, and I'm like, I would not watch this now. Like,
Oh yeah, sure.
like it was
Yeah.
fine when there were no other choices. When it was this or like soap operas or news or something, like there was nothing else. There was
Right.
4 channels, 5 channels to choose from, and they're all showing crap. But now it's like, why would I spend time watch? I enjoy, and I don't even use it anymore. I turn it on for Bonsai when he's in the living room, and I'm in here, and I'm like, maybe the cat wants some sound. Cat probably doesn't want any sound, but I'll turn the TV on, right?
Right.
I like services like Pluto TV because it feels like a throwback to cable. Like, I know
Oh,
that
sure.
cable still exists, but it's got the guide, it's live, but with way better channels. Like there's like they got Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who,
Right.
24/7. They have like cult classic movies and horror movies and kung fu movies, like channels that just play that stuff nonstop. And there's a lot of stuff that's really good. And I'll be like, wow, man, what an awesome channel. And I'll sit there for a second and be like, but I ain't watching this. I got stuff to do.
Yeah, right.
So I'll
yeah.
leave it on for the cat. But I like that it's there. But if I don't have to, if I'm not forced to watch some of this stuff, and I'm not so much talking the horror movies and kung fu movies, but like, they got. I never really watched Battlestar Galactica, but this is like 24 hours,
Oh yeah.
24/7 channel for that, and just everything. It's like that's pretty cool. Even classic Who, like since I've ran through most of it, there's some of it I want to revisit, but I'll sit down in just in the middle of a random episode. I'll be like, okay.
Oh, it's some of the, like I love some of the old era stuff, but second and third Doctor, they just really like chop that up into like 7-parters. And it's like, no, this did not need to be 7
No.
parts.
What's the one? The game of war games? I
War
don't know.
Games is so long. That one's like 10 parts, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's so much just back and forth running around doing things that just end up amounting to nothing. It's like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like a cool concept, but whoa, bloated. Yeah.
right. But they were just filling time, really. Like,
Right.
I mean, intentionally and unabashed. That's what most of I feel like, especially classic, not just Doctor Who, but Doctor Who, it's very apparent where it's just like, yeah, they want to be entertaining, but they also like just kind of need to fill time. It just needs to
Right.
exist. They're not even going to like save the tapes to replay this in the future. It just needs
Right.
to fill this time and get some
Right,
eyes on
right.
it. So, yeah.
So it doesn't have to have a story. Just throw a pirate ship and some aliens on it, and there you go.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it had so much potential. Dang it.
But who's not what we're talking about? What are we talking about?
Well, we are going to talk about the GD Batman,
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
but I did want to mention, because Jesse, you asked, and we had been talking about Moon Knight. I think Melanie and I are behind an episode, which is probably the season finale. Has that aired?
Yep. That aired.
Okay, so we're 1 episode behind. So I don't know how to approach it, but we did watch the episode before where they're
Okay. On the ship.
on the ship in the sand.
Yep. And that's where we get more of the hippo goddess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
So my big takeaway with that episode was, especially watching Melanie's reaction and thinking about her reaction to the hippo at the end, how the last episode before that ended. And I was like, this episode did not deliver on the fun that the end of the last episode promised.
No.
Quite the opposite. That was
Yeah.
a heavy episode.
Oh, for real. For real. Yeah. Yeah. Now that I recall, like that's the heaviest episode because you find out everything, really.
Go into some hardcore trauma out of left field. Like, really, I mean, I guess maybe I should have expected it, but
I don't think they
I
went
didn't.
into that in the comics. Like he just has it. Like they didn't ever explain why, you know? So I wasn't ready for that at all. And I really wasn't ready for the hippo goddess either, because she never plays into the comics that I'm aware of. I think she's a brand new for TV character.
so I can't believe I just forgot. The last episode, it had me though. I was interested, and we just I just spaced checking out the finale this week.
Hmm.
What days was it? Was it Wednesdays?
Wednesday, I think Wednesday.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's my fault. I was gone. I was doing stuff. So.
Oh yeah, you did go to Omaha Wednesday. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, that's probably part of it. It's just my week is thrown off. Um,
But
well,
anyway,
Jesse, without getting into huge spoilers, I suppose, what did you think of the finale?
I liked it. It's not all that different from other Marvel shows in that all the action happens in the last episode, so you get a little bit of that. But there are some really cool reveals. There's some fun like resolutions and stuff. I don't know, and it's kind of nice how it's still kind of up in the air. Like what's really going on. Like the mystery is kind of threaded throughout, and also like where you guys left off, it's like how are they going to resolve this? Like that's a pretty good question mark throughout most of the finale, so it's pretty fun.
cool.
Sorry,
I like shows where I don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, I mean this is the most Legion of the MCU stuff so far, right?
I agree.
And so it's obviously designed to be more mainstream than that, but still pretty cool.
I was just promoting stuff, just
yeah.
links
Cool.
that I hadn't done yet. I figured before we get into
We're doing
Batman.
like stuff that we've watched. I finished up Picard season 2, and I mean, if you like Star Trek: The Next Generation, this was a pretty fun season. I mean, first season was fun. This one's really fun too. This one involves Q and time travel and all sorts of cool stuff. Also, very like childhood trauma heavy. Oddly enough, like when you think like Jean-Luc Picard, you'd be like, I bet he saw some stuff as a kid. Like that's not really what you think he's gonna. But that's kind of what the crux of this season was like, what does like one of the most notable Starfleet admirals of all time? What is he afraid of? Where's his fear come from? And so that's kind of what the crux of season 2 was.
Is it aliens?
No, no. Like most good sci-fi, it's like it's not really like the science fiction-y bits that are the scary stuff. It's really it's the real stuff. It's the real world.
Right.
Like The Walking Dead. The monsters are the humans.
Yep. Yeah, they usually are. I mean, even if they're
It's because general good zombie. I'm not gonna say it. I say it.
You say it all the time.
For like 8 years, I've said the same thing every time zombies come up. I'm not gonna say it. Well, randomly, we've only watched one episode, but Melanie and I checked out a show yesterday because I'd seen a post on some Facebook group just about a still, and somebody was like, "Hey, what'd you guys think of this show?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't even know what that show is," but it had a picture of Jason Bateman with blood on his mouth, and I was like, "Well, what is that?" And it was called The Outsider. It's an HBO show from 2020. It's a series based on a Stephen King story or book, novel, I don't know, of the same name.
Really?
And we watched, and we watched the first episode, and I'm super intrigued. It was really good. Well, I looked into it a little bit, and I was like, it's got a lot of boxes. Seems like it's set up for some type of maybe moody detective show. Jason Bateman is his own box. Stephen King is a box, but you never know which way.
It's an unreliable box. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's an interest. It's an interest piquer. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's tense. It's tense, but it definitely had me hooked. We watched an episode last night and then was like, I gotta go to bed. We gotta go to bed. But man, I do kind of want to watch more.
Yeah, me too. But man, the soundtrack on that thing is like so horribly ominous the whole time.
Yeah.
But I still like it a lot.
It's one of those shows. It's just a super like interesting. You know, it's not your typical like moody detective show at all. It's a super interesting premise of like, clearly this person committed this murder, but at the same time, they were also over at this place and couldn't have committed the murder. And so, what's going to happen? That's as far as we got.
Yeah.
It's a slight spoiler for the first episode, but whatever. So yeah, I'm the Outsider. I'm super intrigued about it. I hadn't even heard of it, which I'm a little surprised about. Like a HBO series with Jason Bateman based on a Stephen King thing. Maybe I don't know. Flew under the radar. I don't know.
But we were discussing and think that they should have a show with Jason Bateman and Nathan Fillion together, and then people just are confused and are like, "Wait, weren't you just here?"
Right? Who's who?
It would be like, it'd be like Jason Bateman would just be subdued and kind of like stoic and creepy the whole time, and then like Nathan Fillion would just be like loud and over the top all the time. They'd be like the Odd Couple brothers or something.
Well, we were talking about that. Then I was like, wait, didn't one of them? One of them was in that show where he was like had a clone, and when it was like seemed like it could be kind of
Paul
a funny.
Rudd.
Yep.
Yep. And I was like,
Paul
oh,
Rudd, yeah.
whoops. Well, he's different. He's not as similar as those two are,
Yeah.
but he's one of them. He's in there too.
I was thinking about that the other day. Like they're not gonna follow that up, are they? Because we liked it.
Right. I don't think so. I don't remember how it ended, but I don't know that it seemed like it maybe at least
kind of left a door open, but wouldn't necessarily need to continue.
it seemed like a one and done. Yeah.
Right.
I'm actually, and that's I think why it's so the whole like Netflix canceling Archive 81 was so frustrating because it's like that could have been a one and done, but they clearly left it on a cliffhanger.
Right.
I'm okay with a series and I get a series, you know, if you're making a show, you want people to come back for another season, so you leave it on a cliffhanger. But man, just do the safe thing. Put the foot in the door, but at least wrap things up so that when you inevitably get canceled,
because you can always you can always come up with a reason to bring things back. That's why we're talking about things like Cobra Kai and Picard 30 years later, you know.
Freaking, not to bring up old Chibi, but that third season of what was it? The Broadchurch?
Broadchurch, yeah.
Shouldn't have existed, really. The second season was not great. The third season, when you think about like, oh, they're just back being detectives and like doing their job, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
But they did it anyway because they're like, you want another season or not? Here you go.
Right.
Like
yeah.
sometimes they don't even need to like try to make it work. They're just gonna do it.
Right. And it's still not as good as the first season, but it's better than the second season. Could have skipped that second season entirely.
I did.
Yeah, what's that?
I said I did. I only watched the first season.
Oh, there you go. I mean, that's the only one you need.
The third season was better for sure than the second season because it was like a return to. I mean, it was depressing, but and it was different though. It was different. They were smart about doing that, but it was just otherwise a return to what made the first, like just the tone.
Yeah,
it's a more simplified story. We're gonna focus on a thing. We're not gonna be divided between nonsense retconning this person into existence with David Tennant's character and all. Like terrible. Gwen Cooper, bringing her in.
Yeah,
not her actual name, but.
That's who she is, though.
That's who she is and who she will always be. It's like Captain Jack. Not that Captain Jack. The other Captain Jack.
Right.
Not the one who's being on-canceled right now. The one who's been canceled.
That's such a bizarre turn of events. You know, like that a person would be canceled and then, like, I mean, I don't know how to feel about it. You know, like, I guess good that
we're talking about
well, I'm talking about Johnny Depp.
Oh, okay.
No.
Oh,
Johnny Depp being kind of uncanceled.
I resisted the urge to look into any of it the whole time. That's why I never really had anything. Cause that's not really what we do here. But Uh, you know what? Johnny Depp, they got into fights. Okay, that sucks. Whatever. I'm in it now.
Dude got removed from movies. Like he's out of the third installment of the Harry Potter movie.
Right. They replaced him
And
with
it's like, holy cow! Now, like all of that was garbage. You know, like he should be in that movie. He really should have been.
Right.
I've been following it every day.
Have you really?
I started. I got sucked in. I'm not watching like
I don't know any of that. I just think it's fascinating. Like I don't know any details.
Right. It's really interesting. Like online, the people talking about it, and there's lots of people talking about it. No one's supporting Amber Heard. Like everyone. Like, and that's kind of why I started. Like, I was like, because it was so weirdly one-sided. Like justice for Johnny when that come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, really? Okay. I mean, cool. I always liked Johnny Depp. I kind of don't like all the movies he's in, but whatever.
Right.
He's Johnny Depp. He's cool. So then I started checking out videos and got sucked into following it. But yeah, there's very few people championing, supporting,
championing.
Yes,
Yeah.
even you have trouble with it.
That's a bad word.
It's a bad word.
This show doesn't use bad words.
Nope.
That's the whole point.
But you know what? I kind of get it because man, she seems not credible at all.
She is crazy.
I'm sure they had some rough fights that both. I'm sure it was very ugly.
Oh,
but
sure.
Like in terms of how things went down, yeah, I kind of feel like he definitely got wronged, man. He got wronged.
Yeah. And to the point where it affected his career. Like that's where it's
right.
Holy cow, man.
That's
Got
the thing.
blacklisted a little bit.
It doesn't seem like he's like a serial abuser type person, which is why, which would be like, okay, sure, cancel a serial abuser. It just seems like they had a really horrible toxic relationship that boiled down to, I mean, I don't know, it did seem abusive, but like that's relationship stuff. That's not necessarily cancel
Right.
Johnny Depp over stuff. It's just like their nasty relationship stuff, as opposed to some of the other people that get canceled because they're predatory and
yeah,
exactly. That's it. There's a difference between an abusive relationship and a volatile relationship. You can both get hurt in a volatile relationship. In an abusive relationship, it's one person hurting the other, and that's not. I don't think in this case. But you know who else has a volatile relationship?
Batman.
Yes,
he really does.
Thank you for transitioning us out of that. We're gonna lose all our viewers. Nope, it's Friday. They don't know we're streaming.
They don't know we're here. We're laughing into the void.
Yeah.
That's all right. You know what? We're not distracted by comments tonight.
Yeah.
That's true.
That's what's been missing. By the way, it's weird to do so knowing no one's watching right now, but shout out to Savannah. She's she's a cat dancer. She supports us on Patreon at our cat dancing tier. You can too. It doesn't have to be cat dancing tier, but for as little as $1, you can go to patreon.com/Grawlix podcast. Help support the show. And that money does go back into the podcast. Usually once in a while I'll have to dip over there and be like, I need to pay for podcast hosting or StreamYard. What do we got? What do we got in that Patreon piggy bank? So
what's in the coffers?
It's right. That's right. Yeah. Or website hosting. That's typically where that money goes. So if you want to help support the show,
if you can't do it every month, there's other options like Humble Bundle, and right now Humble Bundle has some cool comics stuff, especially if you're old. If you're really old and you liked the 90s, there's all sorts of 90s Image stuff, like pretty much every comic that we spent way too much money on because Image was new and cool.
Right.
Spawn,
did you get the
Shadowhawk,
collectible
some Youngblood.
holographic tin foil
Oh
cover?
yes, man, I was all in. I have Ninjak issue 1 with the wraparound foil.
Whoa. That's
yeah.
going to put you through college someday.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many of the there's so many of them. It's probably worth $3 now, and it probably cost me $3 back then, and that's expensive for a comic back then.
With inflation, you definitely lost out
Yeah,
on
it's
that
like
one.
lost money on that. Like I owe the government money because I bought that comic.
It's right.
I don't know how. I don't know how economics work. I'm an adult.
So let's talk about the Batman.
Let's do it.
Oh, wait, yeah.
That's a
hold on.
comic book from the 90s and before.
Grawlixpodcast.com/humble. That'll redirect you to Humble Bundles using our affiliate link. Doesn't cost you any extra. We get a kickback.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Good deal.
So sweet.
Hey,
Yeah.
the Batman. We finally watched this movie. I feel real bad for how
Forever.
Jesse had to watch this.
Oh man. On my
David Lynch would be
freaking
upset.
phone. that was the thing is like
You had such a hard time with it.
the app worked fine on my phone, but as soon as I tried to like cast it onto my television, like watch it on an actual screen for movie viewing, it just was awful. I had fully intended to watch this all 3 hours, to get the full experience, and it just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Melanie's seen it before any of us, as we talked about on previous episodes, in a
In
theater.
the theater.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was
So
probably the best. That was
Right.
the
Yeah,
best way to see
It was pretty pimp.
I watched it here in my home twice. I debated watching it a third time this week, just because I would have, which meant I probably hated it. So, and
It
then
was awful.
and then
It was
Jesse had
dumb.
horrible. It was dumb. This is
was
boring.
This
It's
is what a
boring and
dumb, what a dumb show.
I mean, the Batman and the Joel Schumacher Batman movies were stupid, but those were way better than this.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
That's a
Their
serious-
Riddler wore green, so they win.
He had like a hunter. It was like dark, but it was a hunter green. There was a green
Was
tint.
it green? Was it
It was a hunter green tint.
a garbage? if the garbage bags in Gotham City are green, we're a garbage bag.
You know what everybody did praise about it? I didn't really think it was all that great. It was
Are you
the
talking
people-
about Colin Farrell?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the only thing that, like, there are times where it takes me out of it, where it's like,
Yeah.
no, you really should have just got somebody that looks like that.
Right.
Like, I mean, like, it is incredible,
Hmm.
but sometimes it's Uncanny Valley, and I can tell he's wearing a fat suit.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about things we did and didn't like.
Yeah, sorry.
I love this movie. I know Melanie talked about it a little bit, and she said this was maybe the best Batman movie.
Yeah, I said it might be the best Batman movie ever.
Were you?
Mostly because I loved the first two, the Batman and Batman Returns. For my childhood, I love them. I always will. But they are like almost a different genre. This is not the same kind of movie, in my opinion.
This is the best Batman movie.
I knew as soon as it started, I was like, we didn't even get like, I suppose that was Batman right off the bat, but like, it was like, I wasn't even convinced that was Batman in the opening scenes. And I'm like, okay, this is already Randy's favorite Batman movie ever. Because it's
Batman's
so
not
noir.
even in the opening.
Yeah. It's so noir. I was like, oh, this is clearly Randy's favorite Batman.
Partway through, I'm like, it's a moody detective movie.
It is, yeah.
It is.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Sorry.
Oh, the air raids have begun, have they?
Yeah. It happens from time to time. I live next
Was
to...
that joke in poor taste? Is that too soon? Air raids from World War II? I don't know.
Nah.
too soon.
It's too soon.
I live next to the fire station in a small town that has volunteer fire department. So unless I'm wrong and there's actually a tornado warning, that's them calling firefighters in. So for
That'd
people
be
who don't know
pretty
what that is.
sudden tornado warning,
Right.
considering
Right.
how nice it's been all day.
Well, I've had my window closed, my blinds closed for 30 minutes, so I don't know. Anyway, it could have. Tornadoes come out of nowhere.
Yep.
They can just pop up.
Where do tornadoes come from? Well, when a mommy when a mommy cold front and a daddy
Yep.
warm front love each other a little too much, tornadoes are born.
Yep.
Okay. So,
That's like Batman.
here's why I say, yeah, I was, and I'm not like, listen, if the movie like crapped the bed in the last half, I would have changed my mind. But I knew 20 minutes in, I was like, I love this. This might be the best already. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not to say like, I don't know. I don't know that it's even the most entertaining, but it is the most Batman movie there's been, as in terms of representation of my favorite kind of Batman comic stories. It's the most comic appropriate Batman. If you're looking at like a lot of the Batman stories that are like essential reading from like the 80s, 90s today, there's a lot of like, it's interesting. We happened to watch the Long Halloween animated versions of the, animated cartoon movies that
Yeah.
were released, because it pulls a lot of like kind of influence from Long Halloween for sure.
Oh yeah.
But it's got Batman doing detective stuff, kind of, or at least he's in detective scenes.
Yeah.
Alfred's doing a lot of detective stuff. Batman's doing some detective stuff, but he's there. I don't know. It's just got things in the comics that I really like about Batman that you don't ever see in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
liked that it's so visual, like we talk about how Zack Snyder is this visual director and how he's all about like crafting the image, right? And he gets all this credit for it. I loved the things that they did with this so much more. Like there's the scene, I mean, like I don't even want to spoil things, but like there's a scene where some awful stuff is happening in this car and it just pans out and you're way up in the air and you could still see this like blue light blinking
Right,
from way
right.
up and far away, and like no one would notice that, but it's like, there's that weird blue light in that car and what's happening in that car. That was a cool choice.
It's got a lot of style that works for it. It's not necessarily just style for style. It works. It works in the tone. Like Zack Snyder likes to do a lot of like stuff that looks cool, and it does look cool, but it kind of ends up feeling kind of hollow. And this is a stylistic movie, but it never feels like it's sacrificing like anything for its style. It just works together in concert with each other, the style and the substance. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes Batman into a peeping Tom a little bit, though.
Oh, he's big time.
This is a weird Bruce Wayne. This is a weird
Yeah.
Batman for sure. I don't think he is a voyeur. I was like, oh, Batman, you're gonna get canceled. You watch a Catwoman change. And also, speaking real quick about the visual look of it, it kind of out-darks or out-goths Tim Burton's. It's like...
It's so goth.
It's
super goth. Emo goth, almost.
Mm-hmm.
like Tim Burton's movies are super stylized, and this is both at the same time more grounded, but more stylized at the same. Like it's more realistic, but like then again, when you're in like the Wayne apartment or manor or whatever it is, it's not quite Wayne Manor. There's so much detail and weird little like gothic etching on everything. It's just like overboard crazy.
Yeah. I didn't bring one thought that I had about because of the apartment thing. If they're in the apartment, how does he get access to the Batcave from the top of a tower? Is that why they had the big pole in the old series because
Yeah. That's a weird decision that there was Wayne Manor is not a thing. Like
Oh yeah, it's a tower. Yeah.
they live and by some of the stuff that Riddler said, like Bruce Wayne as the orphan lived in a tower above the park. And then they mention that Wayne Manor had been donated to the orphanage because they went there and it had burned down at some point. So is that them still like this could work in the Snyder version, the Snyderverse, because in that Wayne Manor was a burnt out husk.
Didn't they say this is like Batman in Earth 2 or something? Like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like they're just basically like, yeah, this is Batman in a different like universe or whatever.
Probably
All that other stuff is still fair game.
I mean, they're gonna No Way Home it with the Flash, so
Right.
like it's all valid now. It's all valid.
Right.
So is any of it valid? I took just a few notes when I was watching it. Obvious Riddle Batman parallels. That's not surprising. They always do that with the villain, but I thought they worked. I mean, these are not clever, subtle, necessarily, but Riddler peeping on his first victim in the movie definitely seems like handled similarly to Batman's voyeur on Catwoman scene, voyeuristic spying.
right.
And then they also both emerge from the darkness, but in different ways. Man, the opening scene is so good. It's basically somebody's like, what if Batman but 7? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sold. In fact, there's maybe a little too much. There's scenes when they're slight spoilers. When spoilers when they're in the Riddler's apartment reading out like his notes. That is like, it's not word for word, but that scene, like parts of that are lifted straight out of 7 when they're in John Doe's apartment reading from his notebooks. Some of the things he says is very close.
I joked about this Riddler and the garbage bag and whatnot. I was prepared to hate this Riddler based on the images, but like, man, it's written well. Like this was a good Riddler. And that's what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for a good Riddler. And I feel like this movie had that tension that has been lacking from a lot of Batman movies. And how in the world did Robert Pattinson feel like the most dangerous Batman we've had?
Right.
Like I'm scared that he's going to hurt people. You're like,
he's going to hurt.
It's tense when he walks into a scene. I'm like, I am scared of this Batman.
He's going to hurt someone or himself.
Yeah.
He's going to be bat dancing in the corner if you're not careful.
I love that he doesn't stick the landing. That was one of my favorite parts. He totally biffs it.
Yeah, he should have been hurt a lot worse than he was.
Yeah. But I was just like, whoa, Batman did not stick the landing? Weird and cool.
It's interesting. Yeah, I kind of joked that, like, you know, Batman was in detective scenes, not necessarily doing all the detective work. But, like, no, you're right. He's not a perfect, like, he's still working it out. He's not very good at certain things. It was humorous to me. And when I watched it the second time, I had to run it back and play it for Melanie. When they find out where Riddler's at and he, like, zip lines through the window, it's so, like, not graceful. It's just like the bat little claw thing comes through the window and latches on, and then all of a sudden Batman just flies through the window, hits the ground, and you hear him make a rough sound before he jumps up. It makes me laugh so hard. But at the same time, I'm like, that is so perfect. Like, he doesn't know what's through that window. He just kind of launched himself through and hoped for the best. And that is like perfect. That's kind of a great Batman. Just like, hope for the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably going to get jacked up. Fortunately, he's invincible, so everyone knows.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, I kind of jumping back with what Jesse was talking about with the Riddler a little bit. That's the reason that I like this movie so much. I mean, Pattinson's fine. He did a good job. the thing that I think makes this movie great, and I'm gonna give it almost entirely to the Riddler, maybe some to the gangster people, but they are the most like believable, real bad
Oh
people
yeah.
I've ever seen in a Batman movie. And yeah, that guy could have been the guy that played the Riddler could have been any like extremist in America. You know what I mean? To
Right.
have that kind of an attitude, and uh, I think it's great. I thought it was great. And the gangster stuff did help keep it grounded too. But
It is an interesting balance they did with him because he is at this. He's both very Riddler-like and an interesting and not totally inaccurate take on the character, and at the same time, not at all what I would expect a Riddler character to be.
Right.
Yeah, they managed to do this like kind of angry white guy extremist type guy character, yet at the same time still works in puns like thumb drive. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh my god. Yeah.
What?
Right.
uh,
It made it creepy too. I mean, because it wasn't just the thumb. Like you had to take the thumb out of the bag.
right. And his acting was, yeah. I'm still torn about the idea of like. I feel like since they did it with Joker in The Dark Knight, the like message from the villain to on social media or like mailed to the news or whatever, where it's just like shaky handheld video cell phone footage and just like the certain way they yell, because they did that like Nolan did that again kind of, if I remember right, in Dark Knight Rises. Maybe I'm wrong, but like I don't know, this his social media posts and the way he would yell Riddler in this remind me of that, and I was like, okay, and that's weird for a Riddler, but man, once we like actually like he's unmasked, I like the performance, but it's still as big and weird and over the top as in his social media posts. Like when he gets
Yeah.
upset and yells, just like "Ah," and but then like turns that into a word and keeps yelling out a sentence. I feel
mhm.
like lesser actors it wouldn't have played very well, but this guy
Right.
kind of sold it.
Yeah, and I don't know who he is either.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what was there? What was it? There was something else. One thing I really liked, touching back on like Batman things that movies never really pull off well, that I really, it helped to sell this movie for me, is the idea of, because even in the comics you're kind of like, okay, whatever, it's Batman, he wants to strike fear in the hearts of the criminals, and the bat signal is it's not just a call to call, it's a warning type thing. It actually, that sequence at the beginning kind of sold me on the idea of like, oh yeah, no, a criminal's like doing some stuff, he notices that's out, so Batman's out, maybe I don't want to go down that dark alley because he could be in there. Like it kind of
Yeah.
sold that idea. And I don't think I've seen anything that ever really made that concept work in any, believable fashion.
Right.
Also, I really liked, I usually hate voiceover narration, but it totally worked. The little bits of Robert Pattinson voiceover narration, because it sells the film noir detective story genre concept, and it was good. It's like, oh yeah, no, this is a Batman he's down in the dirt.
Mhm.
The city, it's always raining in this city. It's
I didn't-
Halloween.
I didn't hate this Catwoman either.
Oh, I liked her. She was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her too. The only thing I didn't like was that, like I was saying before, or when I first talked about it, was some of her fight stuff. I thought you could tell there was CG in it, and that was weird in such a realistic movie to see that. But
Right. I feel
Sure.
like, yeah, and I feel like it was an intentional stylistic choice that it doesn't look totally natural. Like they made her look almost supernaturally graceful at times, and it does
mhm.
kind of stick out. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Mm.
Circus was good as Alfred. There's
Yeah.
never been a bad Alfred.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was. You're right. I don't- the Snyderverse Alfred. What's his name?
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy
Yeah, he
Irons.
was
I liked
good.
him.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis actually works. I thought he was good.
I thought he seemed much more like a military retiree than other
Mm-hmm.
Alfreds that I've seen before, and
Which
I
Right.
is,
appreciated that.
yeah, totally appropriate. I liked then also that they were able to like pull in the did contribute to the Batman stuff. He has that military background. He knows how to work on a cipher. Like that was good.
Right.
Smart.
Hmm.
I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's a
Sure.
perfect movie because he's not a perfect Batman. He messes up. The that crash he takes after the whole like wingsuit sequence,
Yeah.
it's a bit much. I was like, "Oh, what's going to happen now? Oh, he's just going to stand on the roof and talk to Catwoman." Okay. I guess he's
Yeah.
fine.
Right. Yeah.
And he also took a blow of like a C4 explosion
Oh
to the
God.
face,
Yeah.
and he put his hands up.
Thank
Still.
goodness. Thank goodness.
Right.
That could have hurt.
What else?
And you, I mean, I guess not, but you would think maybe. Oh, two things then. Okay, first, I love the like bigger, overarching kind of theme behind it. The whole reason that Batman kind of sucks. You know, he could use his money to, maybe help the city, and it would help prevent crime a lot more than him just going and beating up criminals after the fact. I like that they bring that up, and it is also apparent with all of the bad guys that kind of tie into that too. And you would think, though, him being a great detective and all, he would have realized that the program that his dad set up was being used as a money laundering scheme. I didn't like. I mean, it's good for the story, but I would think Batman, if he was the world's greatest detective, would have figured that out.
I liked Pattinson's Batman. Yeah, but this version of Bruce Wayne, it's not bad, but he kind of sucks. Like I've read versions of Bruce Wayne like this where
Yeah.
he is dense in that way where it's like, yeah, no, like you need to like take he could do so much more. And the mayor, the potential mayor elect lady running for mayor or whatever, even says like, your family has a history of philanthropy. What are you doing? What have you been doing for this city? Like,
Right.
we basically like we could use your money, man. Like, what are you doing with your money? You're not
Right.
helping. And that's a big point of like early on, him and Alfred have that conversation about, he's like, the money's gonna be gone. You're just letting it go to waste or like whatever, and you're just down here doing this thing. I don't care about any of that. You're not my real dad. Like doing his emo
Right.
thing. Like
Yeah.
they play up the immaturity of him maybe a little much, but whatever. That's just sometimes, and it depends on the writer. Like in the comics, some versions of Bruce Wayne are better at like doing the like billionaire playboy routine when they need to. They understand
Right.
that blah blah blah, but he's still Batman at night. And sometimes they are like almost not autistic, but they're almost like single-mindedly just Batman and what's the word? Not sociopathic either, and I'm not equating those two things, just so you know. Like they don't understand human emotions really, like in a
Right.
normal
Right.
way. And this feels like that version of Bruce Wayne more, especially when he's like wiring up Catwoman with the earpiece and all that, and she's clearly like trying to get close to him, and he's just like still just testing the equipment, and she's like, "Do you even like? What if I'm in trouble? Then do you even care?" And he's just like, "Of course I care." It's like, dude, you don't care. Like you clearly are just using her
Right.
in this situation. He just doesn't seem to understand normal human things. Whatever. I feel like my point was lost, but that's okay. Gordon, let's talk about Gordon real quick because I really like this version of Gordon.
Yeah. Yeah. He was good.
Gordon. A super interesting line. I like that they hint at like the setup, which if you've read was it year one Batman stuff or whatever, I think that kind of gets into their like arrangement, their meeting and how they came to be friends or whatever. I like that this kind of skipped that because we're in year 2.
Right.
But Gordon, like, they have some history because he unflinchingly just total trust in Batman. And at one point, and I wrote the line down specifically because it kind of struck me, was, Batman's like, do you trust any of them? Talking about like the corrupt cops and then all that. And Gordon's like, I only trust you. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay.
Right.
Super interesting. But I like that actor.
Oh yeah, Westworld.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
brings the same like mopey energy, which is perfect for like any of these characters in Gotham. He's the perfect mopey
Man,
Gordon.
Gotham is a garbage heap, man.
It is.
It's like literally got dumpster fires all over the place. Like literal dumpster fires.
It made me realize, like, the first Batman Begins, Gotham was much more like stylistic. It was kind of in between this, where it's like intricate, detailed, kind of Gothic style, and Burton's Gotham, where it was like big, elaborate Art Deco Gothic style. But then think about like the second 2 Nolan Batman movies, where it's just like it's just Detroit now,
It just changes like utterly. Like
New York,
the Gotham that Bane takes over with the empty streets and stuff doesn't even look like the Batman Begins Gotham.
No, and it's so interesting to think of like all the like dark versions of Batman, or the like gritty real versions of Batman we got. This just outdoes all of them. It's so much more. But
it's like a war-torn country almost. It's like, whoa. But also with opulence. It was like so clearly the haves and the have-nots in this one.
Yeah, it's dark and gritty and dirty, yet at the same time parts of it are like very elaborate and very, very fancy. But those even look like dark and dirty. Like it's super interesting. I really hope, because there's going to be another one. I'm pretty sure they've already signed on the director for a second one. I hope they stick with. Speaking, like I mentioned earlier, they pulled a lot from like Long Halloween. It also reminded me of, and partially because it's a Riddler story, 0 Year, which was the like New 52 Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo first year of Batman story, and it was a Riddler story, but that was like basically if most of this had taken place after the explosions towards the end. But I like that this is like sets up that kind of a story, which is interesting.
Right.
I don't know that we'll end up getting that kind of a story, but it touches on like the big sweeping miniseries arcs of Batman, where you got the detective stuff, but at the same time also like Gotham's in ruins.
Right.
It's the apocalypse in Gotham, and now it's gonna be a war zone while all the big Batman villains have to fight over here. And I like that it sets that up. Mm-hmm. It yet still feels like a grounded story. It's weird.
How did you feel about Captain America Batman at the end?
It's okay.
Yeah.
It was okay.
It was all right. It was all right. There was a little bit of me that was like, really? But I also kind of liked it because that is how Batman kind of is at certain points in the comic history.
I feel I don't know what they're going to do with him in a sequel, but I feel I like their arc. I like the Batman arc. The Batman Bruce Wayne arc in this felt much more sensible than the Batman. I'll be the Batman Gotham deserves, not the Batman. Whatever.
Yeah,
the Batman Gotham needs, not the what. Like it's more. It makes more sense as a character arc than that. But it's not exactly subtle, but it's not totally hammered in your face to where I like the reveal of like when the one crazy shooter guys like they're like, who are you? What's your name? I'm Vengeance, and it really sunk on him. And then we get the scene where he's like, oh, like he's going to lead people out, and at first they're like, "Oh man, no!" And that's a reoccurring theme is like, Batman's not some loved hero of the city.
Right.
Everyone's afraid of him because
Mhm.
he's scary. But he ends up leading them out, and then he's putting the person on the helicopter, and they're like, grab his arm, like, oh, don't let go, and he's like, ugh, whatever. We get Batman's growing as a
Yeah.
person. He's like, oh, maybe I can be the hero Gotham needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah. I mean, like
Okay,
he becomes this like almost Superman type of symbolic hero.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I just I wouldn't want to have to write the sequel after that.
Right. I think
Right.
it's important because if you didn't do that, if you didn't show him trying to, be the light in the darkness instead of just the darkness, then you wouldn't really have much hope for the future of Gotham at all, if there wasn't something uplifting in there. So I think it was kind of necessary.
I guess where you take him after this is make him have to get smarter
Yeah.
and then give him some loss. So I guess, I don't know. Give him
No, he doesn't need any more loss. If we lose Alfred, I will cry. Leave
No,
him
no, no,
alone.
no. Give him a Robin.
Oh no.
He needs to go through a Robin or two.
Oh no.
So we get grizzled old moody Batman.
Death
Complete
in the
the-
Family. The
complete the-
sequel.
yeah.
Oh God. Go
Uh,
straight to Jason Todd.
Right. I can't picture this he's still young though. He's still super young in this. So like I can't picture this Bruce Wayne being like, I need a ward. Give me that kid.
You know what I need is this kid.
That mayor kid.
Yeah.
I've been eyeballing him. I bet he could throw some roundhouse kicks.
yeah. But what can he do with a batarang?
Right. I also like he didn't ever use it. He has the thing on his chest he
Oh,
takes
yeah,
off.
yeah.
It uses it to cut through tape to get in there, but he doesn't like they're kind of careful
right.
about his
Yeah.
devices. Also though, was he juicing? Did he have some Bane juice going on?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is that Venom?
It
It
was some
feels like it was because it
Glowing
wasn't
green
like.
go-go juice.
And he put it in his leg. He had a nozzle in his leg
Special
for
port
go
for it.
juice.
It's kind of a little bit of a seedy dark Batman is what this is.
Yeah.
I don't trust this Batman even after he's decided he's good. He's needs to be a beacon for hope.
And the reaction was instant, like roid rage. So it's like,
Yeah.
man, was that Venom?
He was gonna beat that guy to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super interesting. Like little things like that are like, whoa, that's like weird,
Yeah.
straight out of comics stuff, like a glowing green goo stuff. I guess it kind of makes sense that he could like jump off and like cut that electrical wire and be fine, if
Right.
that's the case.
Carmine Falcone was really creepy too.
Right.
Like, yeah, everything about this movie is pretty good at setting up tension.
Interesting casting all around. I agree with you guys on the Colin Farrell for whatever.
Yeah.
You call
I don't
not
even hate that
necessary.
character. It's just cast somebody who looks like that.
Yeah, like it's not necessary. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
a waste of money and time and not handsome actors. They need work too.
Right.
I don't think I like any feral actors.
Uh,
No, I take that back. I do like Will Ferrell if he's not trying to be funny. But if
Oh,
he's trying
yeah.
to be funny, no, I don't like him.
Right.
there's something else I was really wanting to talk about, but I'm forgetting. It's one of those movies. I wish I'd have took better notes. It's one of those where like there's after we're done, I'm gonna think of like 20 other things.
Hmm.
Hey, Maddie D,
Whoa.
what's going on? Yeah, we're doing a Friday night. It's Friday night.
Are we doing a Friday night next week too?
Not necessarily. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we can talk about it off camera, but like I really can't do Thursday or Friday.
Oh, okay.
So
We're doing. Trying to Wednesday at 3 a.m.
Hmm.
all
No,
right.
we're not doing that. Maddie D, have you seen the Batman yet? And how much did you love it? I'll accept no other answers. Oh, yeah. Holy crap, Batman, it's Friday night, and here's the Grawlix group. He said yes to the
Yeah,
second
that's
part I'm
fair.
using.
That's fair. Yeah. Yes.
He loved it a lot. Batman can't help but murder a whole bunch of people, though.
No kidding.
That, like, you could say, well, it's the Penguin's fault. He didn't need to chase the Penguin out into Final Destination 2 territory.
Right.
Oh my God, that car chase. Whoa.
I know.
I mean, it was great, but it's kind of like, I feel like the parts where I'm like, that's a little iffy, are when it felt like they needed to inject big action stuff. Like
yeah, I agree.
Batman getting clotheslined by that bridge, a little iffy. Like it's a little over the top, but like something big's got to happen. Maddie D says it's the first murder mystery story for a bat. Dude, that's exactly it. It's the first, like, it's almost such a trope of the Batman comics, this kind of story, that's never been done in movies.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a true detective story. It was.
Like the Batmobile is going to come through the fire, right?
Right.
Uh-huh.
But like when it does, it looks like it's coming straight out of hell.
It's so good. Like that sequence is done like it's so good, but it's so also like, oh my God, it's burned in my head though. Like it's Penguin's fault, but he like, I don't know if he like swipes an SUV, but the first SUV that goes sideways in front of a semi and basically just gets eaten. I'm like, that's a carload of people dead. This suddenly take a turn. This is a bad day in Gotham right now. Like this is horrible, and that was Batman's fault. So
probably the reason that we don't see police cars flying through fire all the time is because we have the rules that keep them from just randomly murdering bystanders.
Well, that's the thing. There are like cops can't. In most places, like you'll see some like kind of high speed. They can't do that for that reason. Is that causes a lot of harm to other people.
Right. Yeah, they can chase the car, but not into oncoming traffic.
I'm a little surprised that like that just wasn't addressed because that actually comes up in the comics from time to time. Just like his reckless behavior. I can't remember what it was. One of the last like Batman stories I read had to do. Oh, it was like it was one of the Elseworlds, but it had to do with like him.
It was the White Knight or whatever.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Sorry, real quick, because Maddie D is here. I don't know, Maddie D, if you watch what is it? What are they called? Corridor Crew. But they made a video.
Corridor Crew.
The 60s Batman into like a trailer for this current Batman, and I think you should watch it. It'd be great for you.
Last week when I canceled our stream, I posted that video.
Oh, did you?
I was like, we're not gonna have a stream, but hey, here's Adam West Batman in the new Batman trailer. Yeah, if you haven't checked that out, you should definitely check it out. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Same with you, Jesse, if you haven't watched it.
Yeah, I'll have to.
I didn't like the title though. With Batman, the Batman, but with Goofy Batman. That's not Goofy Batman.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
Have some respect.
Wow. That's a 60s Batman. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Adam West is the best Batman.
Adam West. They did include that clip of him singing from Family Guy where he's just like singing his name, and I always like that. Adam West. Adam West. The Batman 66. Yeah, I like the car too. This version of, because it reminded me of forever ago, Francesco Francavilla. I'm probably saying the name wrong. Great artist. Been following him on Twitter forever because he always posts like super cool art. He did a series of like Batman, but like the 70s, and Batman, but like the 70s. Pictures he'd posted a while back. The Batmobile of a 70s style Batman is like a muscle car, and it reminded me very much of this thing. I really liked its reveal in the movie too. Like it's just a
Mhm.
cool sequence, just like slowly revving up. It's getting more intense. There's like glowing stuff in the grill and
Right.
good stuff.
Mhm.
That's another thing. Like good story and the action, even though it's maybe like seems weirdly out of top, over the top, but was good action. And then thinking about like the Nolan movies, where it's arguably more about story, the action would suffer, and it makes me think of that scene where like where there's he's fighting all the bad guys, and there's extras in the background just like taking hits from no one and falling over, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even Christopher Nolan, like, there's parts where, like, he dropped the ball here and there. And this movie, though, was consistent. Like, it just had everything working. And I understand that people are going to be bored by it, but they suck and they don't like true cinema.
There were some things that I thought were excessive. Like I've already mentioned it before, but the freaking driving away at the end between him and Catgirl. How long did that need to be? Really, not that long. Not that long at all. That part annoyed me. There was some stuff that they stretched out for no reason, I thought.
Oh, Matty D knows the Francavilla Batman art. Not this baby, not the strongest. Like that's like maybe not the strongest ending sequence. I thought the bit where what they part
Yeah.
and whatever, that's fine. But like the driving through
yeah.
the cemetery leading up to that, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Wait, what's this now? I feel like it's supposed to be cute or something. It's weird because it's like broad daylight and it's dude in a like I don't know. It just looked a little silly to me. But that's the movie being like this was about human emotion. That's what kind of ending that is.
Yeah. So that is the one Twilightism of it, I guess, is that Bruce Wayne just can't feel anything like a vampire.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like the reoccurring little bit where he goes to the this is the last thing, I swear. The reoccurring bit where he goes to the club. The first time he's dressed up as Batman, and then he goes as Bruce Wayne, and then he's like goes the third time and sneaks in. But it's got the twins at the door, right?
Yeah.
When he goes as Bruce Wayne, he's just like little goth kid, like shivering in the rain, just looks broken. It's like this is a weird Bruce Wayne. That is not what I was expecting.
Right, yeah, right.
He really like ran with that idea of Bruce Wayne. Like a sparkly vampire. Yes.
And he didn't do a weird accent this time, so that's interesting.
Right. I did notice sometimes he does a Batman voice, but other times, even as Batman, he didn't do a Batman voice. And I wonder if that was intentional because people gave Christian Bale so much crap for like when he'd do the Batman voice to Alfred and stuff in those movies. I remember people complaining, and I wonder if they were very careful about who gets the Batman voice and who doesn't.
I was wondering if you didn't notice though, like when he uses it. Does he use it like only when he's like doing the narration or and talking to bad guys, or is it like to everybody except Alfred and maybe Catwoman?
Well, when I inevitably watch it a third time, I'll have to take note. I will. He does do it when he does the narration though, but that's appropriate. That's his true inner voice is the Batman voice. Oh. Last thing, I swear.
I'm gonna need a tally there.
It's not the most memorable Batman theme, but I loved the music. As soon as I was like, wait, this is the theme because it's
Yeah.
I was like, this is the funeral march. This is the Chopin piano sonata number 2. Like what? It's not exactly, but it is like every time it started, I expected the rest of Chopin's the piano to keep rolling. So I really loved that. Like, I was like, this is the darkest Batman. His theme is like a funeral dirge.
Wait, his theme wasn't a slowed down tempo Nirvana song?
I was gonna say the other thing is, it's like the best. It's like my favorite Nirvana song. It's the one that I'm always like, it's okay to eat fish because they don't have any feelings. That song.
Right.
Well, that's the song. But yeah, it is also like I don't know that it's the same chords exactly, but it's the two slow alternating. I that the Nirvana pick must have came first because the theme, it does have that to it too. So it's like, yeah.
Wait, I thought it sounded like Star Wars.
It also has a bit of the was it Imperial March?
March,
Real
yeah.
March,
It definitely has that in it too. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's all cool things. It's all
Yeah.
they're like, what are all the darkest but coolest sounding?
So when he has to fight as Bruce Wayne, and he's like dressed up for a funeral, would that make him a TIE fighter?
I wonder what styles he. Another interesting thing I noticed whatever like Alfred taught him to fight, because Alfred said I taught, which makes sense that Alfred would, but like we don't necessarily get the it's not like the Batman Begins where he went off and to with the League of Shadows to get trained or whatever. Like it's just Alfred taught him to fight. It's like, I mean, Alfred, you kind of didn't do this kid any favors.
Yeah. You know what I want to see one day? I want to see a Batman, if they're going to use Batman this way, where he walks out and is getting shot by a machine gun or something, and just stands there. Maybe put like, it can be clear, but put something to cover the lower portion of his face.
Yeah,
that would be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you could be like, a tough guy and just walk into it because you got bulletproof stuff on. But like if your bottom of your face is exposed, somebody's
Right.
just gonna be like,
Just gonna shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
The horns were on point.
Yeah.
Maddie D says, speaking of Alfred, he liked Andy Serkis, but still thinks Michael Caine is his favorite. Okay, jumping over. Matt also says, in regards to the mask, like a COVID mask.
Like a bulletproof COVID
He
mask.
should just really be wearing that anyway. They may be criminals, but be considerate, Bruce.
Yeah, come on.
That reminds me. Who's your guys' favorite movie or live action Alfred? I'm still really partial to. I like Michael Caine because he's Michael Caine, but he's always, even though when he's Alfred, he's still just Michael Caine or whatever.
Yeah, he definitely is Michael Caine.
So I'm still partial to. I don't know his name. The Alfred from the first.
Oh, yeah. No, he was good, and he's
Tim
one
Burton,
of the.
but also
yeah.
he's stuck around.
He's kind of the
through
first person I think of,
Yeah.
for the live action. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also because he's not too dissimilar from the 60s Batman Alfred. And that's, I guess, my number 2 Alfred. Just because when I think of Alfred, it's those two guys that pop in my head. Michael Go.
They need an Alfred that's older than the ones that we currently have, because in my brain, Alfred is kind of a bad butt, but he's just so old now that he can't really do all those kind of things anymore. And the last few Alfreds have been much too able-bodied for my liking.
Yeah, I like the idea of, he's like, make him still as awesome, as much of a tough guy, but he is an aging tough guy. He's an old tough guy.
Right.
Was he really the Celestial Toy Maker? Holy crud.
Wow, really?
Wow.
Well,
Man, he's so full of knowledge. It's amazing.
we went into the 60s.
Yeah.
If anyone's going to know. Okay, I don't have one more thing, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a toss-up for me between him and Jeremy Irons. I really like Jeremy Irons' dry wit and just, like, taking Batman to task all the time. Like, that was great. I would like to see an Alfred that actually looks kind of like the proper, almost French-like butler that we know from the comics. Like,
Right.
They've never really tried to go there. and I would love to see if they could find someone that would match type like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the animate like if we're gonna talk about the closest to the comics animated series, Alfred is
Yeah.
real close to the comics. Alfred,
Yeah.
I do like that look for Alfred.
Because he's unassuming and yet still a bad butt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah.
We like Batman.
6 stars.
Yeah.
6 stars. Yeah, it was good. It was probably one of the better movies I've seen in a while. I mean, like, it's as good a Batman movie as No Way Home was a good Spider-Man movie. Like, we've had good movies back to back. You know.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. Maddie D says 6.75 stars. So are you saying like the
Whoa,
corner
some-
of the 7th star is just a little
yeah, I was just
not
saying,
not
that's
gold?
a GCU callback for show off.
One more thing. We don't need Joker again. We don't need it.
Yeah.
I guess that's a little
But he's a
distraction.
friend.
Yeah.
It's
nah.
fine to have him in there. Please don't make the sequel focus on Joker. I don't. We
Right.
don't need it.
It was
That-
interesting. I thought that they made they recorded a scene with him and then chose not to use it, but still put him in there. You know.
Yeah. Have you watched the deleted scene, Jesse?
Mm-mm.
Their version of Joker's it's weird. It's an interesting take. Gross looking. Like they're like, oh, Joker's supposed to be like, he was horribly disfigured by toxic waste or by chemicals.
Oh, so he's actually got like chemical burns and whatnot.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty
Ooh.
weird and gross.
It's
But
like
at the
a
same
Freddy
time,
Krueger looking Joker.
I mean, yeah, it's like it kind of would feel out of place. I feel like that deleted scene when they eventually do like the close up look of him. You don't get to see a good look at him. It feels weird. It's like I'm kind of glad they cut that.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, he's definitely gross.
yeah. They show a lot of the back of his head and like just sores and funk and like
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
like
I don't
patches
want
of
that.
hair. It's, yeah, weird. Pretty
Ugh.
grotesque take. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
what should we be amazed about?
Okay, so you should be amazed that airspeeders, flying car racers, are going to be shielded by quote unquote. Hold on, I gotta virtual force fields. That's pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Everything you said sounded like it's in a I don't know
Like
demolition.
a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, Star Wars.
yeah.
They actually bring that up. They said it's something like a mix between Red Bull's air racing and the pod racing scenes from Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. But manned electric flying cars racing through the desert at 120 miles per hour, and they don't want them to start crashing into each other. So they're going to be using. They're going to start using this cutting edge lidar and machine vision technology to ensure close but safe racing with defined and digitally governed
Oh.
no-fly areas surrounding spectators and officials.
So like bumper cars, but with force fields.
Yes, and they fly.
Interesting. So that's what you mean by like the virtual force fields, where it's like
Yeah.
calculated
hmm
digitally, and yeah, okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be like laser technology, so where they like bounce the lasers off, and then they can read back what's ahead and what's behind and what's next to them and stuff, which is a really interesting use of that technology, I think. And then some other stuff that they probably won't tell us about because it's proprietary, but yeah. And it's really cool too because it really is kind of like Star Wars. Like they're gonna like race off cliffs and through canyons and stuff. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Finally, show us some future stuff.
It's about time.
More future.
Been in the
Yeah.
2000s for 22 years.
Yeah, it's about time. I mean, we got future stuff, but it's not cool looking necessarily. Give us some cool looking future
Right.
stuff.
I only have a tiny box that could do literally anything I want it to, but
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I never would have guessed phones would be as cool as they are.
Oh, that's
Phones.
No kidding.
Phones
That's
were
no
so
kidding.
dumb and expensive. I mean, they're expensive, but only to own, like talking to people is the least expensive thing about a phone now.
It's true.
Think
also
about
like-
all the long distance calls you made as a kid. Like, what was that for? What was that for? What's that all about? Phone company? Like, I couldn't call to the next town over for less than $40 a month,
Yep. And you had to pay
Yeah.
on the minute when you did.
right?
My sister once accidentally called China. My parents have disliked her ever since.
Wow.
Whew.
Melanie's stand-up routine starting next week. You can see her down at. That sounds like a set. That's like your
How
delivery
do
was
you-
spot on.
Man, how do you accidentally call another country? Like, it feels like you have to do a couple different, like, connections first.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. She was a kid and she just was touching buttons,
Right.
Maddie D says, "Hey, I used 1-800-COLLECT to make long-distance calls from a payphone. What's a payphone?" Yeah,
Yeah,
1-800
1-800 collect. Yeah, that was like an extra hoop, like.
I think about those commercials because those like the 1-800-COLLECT and the star was it star 69? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Star 69 and whatever, all those like weird little extra services that you could punch in and like
Yep.
Yeah.
find out who called you or whatever, or call somebody collect. And yeah, man, that was big business because those commercials were on all the time. And now I feel like if you played that for somebody under the age of 29, they'd be like, I don't get it. Why? Because why? They're like, why you call them? You just messenger them.
You know, it was
Re-
actually cheaper to set up your own 1-800 number, which is what my parents did. They set up their own 1-800 number and that you could call for free. But they had to pay, like a monthly amount, but it wasn't very much. And then they maybe carry around a beeper so everybody thought I was a drug dealer. And then they'd page me and I'd have to call them right away.
10-10-220 is still in my deep memory, Matt says. Yeah.
Speaking of references that kids will never get from the beginning of this episode, like using collect calls but not really using collect calls, being like now accepting charges. Will you accept the charge from? And then you'd get to record like a clip and you'd be like, "Mom, it's me. Don't take it. I'm going to Ben's. I'll be home at 9."
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And that's
I was
all you do is just so that you could get the message home. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so funny. I haven't thought about that forever. You're right. I'll be home at 6:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I made it fine. It's all. I made it over here okay. Don't worry about it.
Yep. That's a world we lived in, and it doesn't even seem like that world is real.
We're
just
about to get
because
existential.
Yeah.
Existential
That's
midlife crisis.
That's a world where the Berenstain Bears were actually the Berenstein Bears, and that's legit. Look it up.
Phones are amazing. Cell phones, anytime I watch either an old horror movie or a new horror movie that takes place in, like we watched X not long ago, which took place in the 70s, and it's like there's no phones. Like, it's not a thing. If you went somewhere, if you left your house and you went camping, you're legit, like, you're boned. You got to go
Yeah.
to, like, hope there's a town with a payphone somewhere. Nobody has a phone. You can't,
Right.
like, hitch a ride, like, hope somebody drives by that has a phone. Like, it's not a matter of, like, getting service. They're just not, it's not a thing.
Right.
Yeah, I was reading an article, it was a while ago now, but they were like cell phones. They think have made such a big impact on the like how few serial killers we have now, but people just like don't even really think about it. But everybody, even people who don't really have many friends or see people very often, everybody has a cell phone, you know, so they can track where they have been, and usually they'll at least interact with somebody every day, so that somebody will notice that they're gone, so that you don't have these like, well, they've been missing for 6 weeks but nobody noticed, you know. I mean, it does still
Right.
happen, but not as nearly as often as it did in the past. Because now,
Right.
you know, even like a, I'm not gonna, no, even an antisocial person who doesn't leave the house usually has people they talk to on the internet or play a game with or something like that.
It's true.
Yeah, phones are amazing.
What do cell phones have to do with cereal? Well, people are more health conscious now.
A
So,
bit, yeah. You could track your cereal on an app.
Well, hey, I released a music video today.
You
and
did.
You guys should go check it out. Go to Super Science, all one word, superscience.xyz. It'll be on the front page. It's also on the it's on YouTube, so you can get there, but it's easier to just tell you the website. Superscience.xyz. It's a music video made with AI. It's all
Yep.
AI.
Mhm.
All AI generated or based on elements I pulled from AI generated images. I think there's very few like based on stock images I used. Pretty amazing.
Mhm.
The last music video I made took me almost a year. This took me like 3 weeks. So
And
I'm
I was
amazed.
I was shocked at how metal this was. Like like the lack of synthwave was jarring at first.
Yeah.
I was like, "Whoa, this is like so many layers of metal fusion." Like we got some glam guitar in there, like really diddly doo in the riffs. That's a real musical word I just used.
I won't lie, like there's especially particularly that song, there's a couple times where like I had these guitar parts and I was like, that's so cheesy. It's staying in. And then like when the
I
guitar's
might
like
do.
"Whirr, whirr," and I'm like, no, yeah, it's staying.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a pull the band-aid off thing because the new album, there's lots of music, there's lots of stuff. It's every song has a little bit of like metal influence on it of various kinds. Some of them go straight up like more extreme metal, like death metal style. Some of them not so much. But most also still have a little bit of the synthwave influence or elements. This one has very little of that, so it's just kind of like
Very
well, let's just
industrial
do that.
too.
Yeah.
Like it had like layers of industrial on top of that metal stuff. So yeah.
I feel like I probably talked about it on the show, but Melanie can attest, somebody can attest that 7-8 years ago, when the synthwave was kind of at its peak, and I was put together a few albums, I was like, it's the nostalgia thing, 30 years. In fact, I know I've talked about it on the show because that's one of my things. And I was like, so in 10 years, I could start bringing in the 90s, start bringing in the industrial sound.
Nine Inch Nails stuff.
Yeah, bring in the abrasive stuff, and it's about 10. It's like 8 years, 7 years, 8 years later now. So it's happening.
So
it was always the plan.
When is Moby coming back?
I don't know.
You know what my niece said the other day?
Hmm.
Oh, it was when they went to go see Doctor Strange. She's like, I want to wear something cool. I don't have anything. And she's like, I want to wear a long sleeve shirt under a short sleeve shirt. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's the 90s.
Tony Hawk called. He wants his daily wardrobe back.
Hey, that's. I'm all for it.
I
Yeah.
do. I like it because
Yeah, me
I
too.
get cold sometimes. I like
Right.
layers.
Yeah.
Yeah, go check out that video because it's.
Yep.
I saw an early cut and it's rad. It was rad before. I'm excited to see the new stuff.
It is cool. Every version I've seen of it is cool because somebody can't settle on anything and they have to just keep messing with stuff over
I
and over.
settled and I pushed it out. Yeah. Oh yeah. It it was kind of done like weeks ago, but I've done little things here and there to it constantly. But I it's like, nope. Put my fist down. Put my hammer down. This one's got all the nails it needs. I'm putting my hammer down. That's the saying. I'm excited to do more though, because that was still like learning, like a lot of learning process with Disco Diffusion, and so I'm excited to do another video with some of the stuff I kind of figured out there. Cooler, more awesome videos, more rad, more gnarly.
Ooh.
Gnarly is a
gnarly.
Popping in my head a lot when I've been working on stuff. So I'm like, yes, embrace it. Embrace the 90s.
Yes.
Randall George Lucas Sylvie. That's right. I won't lie. I did kind of like, I bet I could do some pretty cool stuff with that other music video I came out with already with this AI stuff.
Oh, you go back and change it? Oh, no.
I won't lie. Who shot first? Yeah. So, nope. Okay, Jesse.
Yeah.
Got anything exciting to mention?
Almost. I almost had a thing. Tomorrow is Free Comic Book Day. I was going to do Free Comic Book Day, and now I'm not. But here's the thing. This show used to be about comics. We kind of talked about a comic book movie. Hey, go get some comics tomorrow. Support your local comic shop. Go do the thing.
Even when we haven't been talking about straight up comics for a while, but I mean, comics is like so saturated the entertainment industry. It was kind of easy to even unintentionally segue out into just talking about movies and TV shows all the time because they're all about comic stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It's to the point where like I don't even have like there's shows like HBO has a DMZ show which is based on a comic book.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, I'll check it out sometime. But like there's even like interesting looking comic book shows that I'm just like, maybe I'll get to it. Like,
still haven't seen Why the Last Man. Still haven't.
I forgot that existed. We watched a couple episodes.
Let's finish it.
I mean, it's still here, Maddie D. It's just the comics move and they talk.
I really dig how they. I mean, like just to throw a little bit of comics stuff on the Moon Knight. I really dig how they pulled stuff from the Jeff Lemire run. Like just image wise, they kind of almost like reverse engineer some of the Jeff Lemire stuff into the show, and so that show wouldn't be as cool as it is if Jeff Lemire hadn't done some Moon Knight.
I feel like that's kind of the theme with some of the cooler comic book property shows, like Batman. Like it embraced the cool aspects of the comics. Like that's part of what made it so good. Is it like, okay, well, let's actually do this. Let's do this right.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, well, hey, Maddie D, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
People of the future, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great time.
Yep.
Yeah. And where are our pod racers? It's been 22 years.
Listen, it's about time. We deserve it.
It really is. People of the future, come on.
Yep.
Friday night.
Friday night. We got a different energy on Friday night.
We do. All right. Bye, everybody. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.